double-barrel shotgun at deputies as well. He said he fired the shotgun a couple of times and also fired the handgun at deputies. He knew they were cops when he got at them. There are the words of a 12-year-old who knew exactly what was going on. The 12-year-old does not have a prior criminal history. However, he has been in foster care since 2016. He did do what's called 2 transient threats at school this year. In April 7th of 2021, he threatened to throw a brick at an administrator. On April 12th, 5 days later, he threatened to kill a student pee and spread his guts all over the bleachers. For both of those actions, he was suspended for 3 days. Now, the female, this gives you the crux of the problem of why I'm railing against DCF and DJJ. She was arrested for stealing puppies in 2018, and the court record she set 5 fires in a wooded lot that came extremely close to several homes. Sheriff Staley said it's a miracle that no homes were damaged. A lot of help. And since DJJ released her back into the same environment that allowed this behavior, I hope she doesn't do it again. On April the 10th. So she's arrested and charged with 5 felonies, and DJJ, who's the gatekeeper, decides that arson isn't a violent crime. So they're going to turn her back to her mother. Well, her mother obviously can't control her, so they place her into foster care. Or actually, they place her into foster care where she runs away several times, and then on May 30th, they decide to send her to Funch. And then we all know what happened on June 1st. This is what the issue is. We're arresting these kids in the state of Florida for violent crimes, and the Department of Juvenile Justice wants to put them into places that can't handle them. And if we remember Funch, not too long ago, less than a month ago, an employee there lost her life when a 15-year-old with violent behavior and violent tendencies hit the guy in the head twice and has subsequently pled to manslaughter. The juvenile justice system is broke. People need to face facts. Instead of listening to Jane and tell her everything is going to be okay, we have an awful lot of violent criminals that are teenagers. Let's face it, nobody. And taking on deputies and open fire, something's just not right. We got a juvenile over the weekend that we grabbed that I want to share with you, who's coming to Daytona to create a little bit of havoc here. He has open cases from January that are violent crimes, and DJJ has done absolutely zero. Not bullshit, and this kid's out running around. His name is Daniel Mathis. He's from Bradenton, Florida. On 129, he's arrested for burglary, grand theft, burglary, vehicle theft, new law violations. He's already been convicted of strong-arm robbery. We grab him out on 40 in a stolen car out of Manatee County, and he's charged with a stolen vehicle and resisting arrest without violence, to obstruct an arrest without violence. These cases from January have not been acted on. He's got an armed robbery in his background, and he's out stealing cars. Now, people want to defend the Department of Juvenile Justice. We are doing this thing called rehabilitative or restorative justice. What are we restoring? What are we restoring? My deputies could not have gone home last night. I cannot imagine how hard it was for the deputies who have children that age, and you may see a body camera clip in here where the deputy's saying a prayer, I don't want to have to shoot. Please don't. I don't want to have to shoot. I don't want to have to shoot. Don't make me do this. I don't know what the residual effects are for the rest of their careers. But nobody comes to work to shoot and kill anybody. We certainly don't come to work to get into gunfights with 12 and 14-year-olds. But we got to take a step back. What we're doing is not working. It's not working. We have another incident where there's a violent child that DJJ doesn't want to touch because of their violent past. So DJJ says, send them to DCF. DCF says, we can't handle him, so why not send him to the Agency for Persons with Disabilities? And they say, we can't take him. He's violent and has mental illness. So where do they end up at? They end up with us. The ones you want to criticize, the ones you want to defund, the ones you want to strip of qualified immunity, the ones who are responsible for everything but the plague in society. Something's not right. Somewhere along the line, the legislators got to make changes. They passed this idiotic House Bill 885. One of the only tools that we have in our arsenal is when they put these juveniles on probation, and we're able to go out and make checks. They're on probation, there has to be consequences, so we go out and check. Their curfews are normally 7 p to 7 a. So we go out and check to find out if Johnny or Jane are where they're supposed to be, or are they out committing crimes. If they're not there, we violate them and send them back to the judge. We can't do that anymore, because under their infinite wisdom, they're saying, that's a technical violation, let's find something else to do. Let's find another way to make them compliant. Why are we rewarding? Why are they not being held accountable? Let's pat Johnny on the head and hug Janie and tell her, you don't have to follow the judge's order. It's absolutely ludicrous. And, of course, we have judges here that have violent thugs writing essays of letters of apology as part of their... but that's a press conference for another day. So, you have any questions before I show the video? Thank you for engaging me in this.
I just wanted to ask where you guys are aware. I spoke to the homeowner today, and he claimed that the AK-47 that he had was in pieces and that the kids put it together. Are you guys aware of that?
We're aware they knew how to work them. We're aware of that. We're aware that they knew what they were doing. And what I learned recently, and I don't know video games, so I don't know how they work. However, they tell me in this Grand Theft Auto, you can shoot a pump shotgun. You could put together an AR or an AK. And there's tactics that can be used against law enforcement. And here, out of the words of a 12-year-old, is we're going to roll like it's GTA, Grand Theft Auto.
So, was the assault rifle in pieces, Sheriff?
We're not the lead investigators on this. FDLE is. We spoke to the homeowner last night at length. And they trashed this poor guy's house. I mean, they caused tens of thousands of dollars worth of damage. And the reason we think that they did it was the homeowner was given an award by the Brevard County Sheriff's Office several years ago that was prominently displayed in the den. And that explains her actions of why deputies are saying she's walking around with a metal pole or bat smashing things. Well, she must have thought that they broke into a deputy's house. There's firearms in there. There's an award from the Brevard County Sheriff's Office. So they just went to town. How is a 12-year-old, a 14-year-old so full of hate? I don't know what to say. But I think, you need to look at the system, because if you look at what's going on here, in South Florida, what are they looking for right now? Teenagers that shot 20 people, killed 2. Atlanta, last week, a 10 through 12-year-old carjacked a city councilman of his car. But yet, you listen to these faith groups and they give out civil citations and restorative justice. Bullshit. Restorative justice is getting people killed, getting people hurt.
Is there anything at this facility that on the local level can be done to mitigate the issues out there?
They are not capable of handling violent youth offenders. That's not what they're in business for. They're in business to help people that have drug issues. They might have some social issues. They're minor, non-violent offenses. They are plugging in violent offenders into these communities. Their staff's not trained for it. We met with them. We met with all the providers in this room. And when I left at the end of that meeting, my head was spinning because nothing got solved. We had the state senator here. Okay, let's all get on the same page. Let's address these issues. Why are violent offenders being put in the group homes where there's no violence? These are kids that have substance abuse issues. They maybe have family issues at home. They've been sexually abused. Why are we putting violent predators in with them? And then what happens? You have a 12-year-old who's never been arrested who's now shooting out with the cops because you put a 14-year-old telling him, let's roll like it's GTA. It makes absolutely no sense. And anybody that sits back and tells you that we're a model in the state of Florida, we're a failure in the state of Florida, just like every other state that embarks on this measure. We're not saying that we don't believe in a holistic approach to juvenile crime. Absolutely, positively. But when you've got somebody who wants to do big boy crimes or big girl crimes, they treat them accordingly. Don't try to mollycoddle them and point them on the head and say that if we hold hands and sing Kumbaya, we're going to change your behavior. It's not going to happen. Because they laugh at us.
Speaking of Tallahassee, what specific things do you think need to change to prevent these issues?
I think that the legislature needs to get off its ass. Okay, stop going to cocktail hours when they're in session, and come out and ride with the boots on the ground. Work with the juvenile justice coordinators. Get out on the street, and more importantly, talk to the victims of juvenile crime. Because the way we're headed right now, you as a victim, if the faith group in Volusia County has their way, you and the victim have no say on the sentencing or arrest of a juvenile. So I would tell the legislators, get out, stop listening to special interest groups and see what's really going on out there. And find out where the money's going that you're giving to all these different groups that nobody talks to one another, or everybody says it's not my job to do it.
What conversations, if any, have you had with the Department of Justice today as well as other state leaders?
I have had zero contact with any other. I have contact with other sheriffs and other police chiefs I've had contact with. But we've had meetings in this room. I mean, our juvenile justice coordinator can tell you. We've met ad nauseum. We've made phone calls ad nauseum that why is this kid with this violent history, case in point, the 15-year-old that killed the guy out there at Bumps, why is he put there? He's got to go somewhere. Well, now the man's dead because he had to go somewhere. Because what the Department of Juvenile Justice will tell you is that look how proud we are. We have X number of kids that we don't commit anymore. Of course, because you send them to these low-level facilities that can't handle them. And they send them from different counties in here, too.
That group home today admitted to not being able to handle the scope of children that they're receiving, saying that they're going to place a moratorium on their campus emergency shelter care program. Is that enough to fix this or no?
No, because it's not just them. You know, when you meet with these providers, they tell you, we can't handle what DJJ's given us. And DJJ, when you go through these lists, you ask yourself, why aren't these kids being committed? The other thing is the timetable. How the hell do you get a violent juvenile, he's committed for 21 days, and you think he's going to walk out the door and everything's going to be okay? They're understaffed, they're underutilized, they don't have the resources to do what needs to be done, so they just cycle them in and cycle them out. 21 days? What gets accomplished in 21 days? I mean, these kids aren't going to keep their appointments unless they're in a structured facility. But yet the legislature in their infinite wisdom said, a probation violation, that's not structure. They can violate it. I mean, they're kids. We had a judge overturn us on a violent juvenile we got the judge to agree, ankle monitoring, curfewing, intense probation. The mother didn't like that and went to the judge and said, but my son can't go to Daytona Beach and visit his girlfriend. And the judge, the Volusia County judge, said, I sympathize for you, man. And reduced all that stuff. And then he went out and committed other crimes.
Sheriff, in this case, have you been in touch with the families of either child? I understand they're in group homes. And
we have not.
We have not. Okay.
We have not. My priority is my deputies. My priority is getting as much information as we can out there so everybody could see what a great job. That how for 45 minutes they did everything humanly possible not to engage them because they were juveniles. They took gunfire. You think that would have worked that way if these were, a 41-year-old career criminal who opened fire on us? It would have been a different outcome.
How are the deputies?
We were worried about, do we insert gas? Don't we insert gas? How do we? Whoever comes up with that? I mean, you don't deal with 12-year-old and 14-year-olds firing at least a minimum of 24 shots were fired at us. At least. We'll know more when FDLE finishes their report. We had 8 deputies that fired, and we fired probably over 60 rounds.
Sheriff, what types of calls do you guys get from this facility?
Runaways is the big one. You get assaults on staff that come in from there. Some could be Baker Acts because obviously they have kids that come in there that have. So it runs the gambit. I'm sure we can get a list and provide it to you. I think it's 289 times in 2020 and 289 times in 2019. Candidate I would worry about. The FUMPS program is taking in kids from the border. So I don't know how many people know that in Volusia County, but FUMPS is one of the places where the kids that are coming across the border are being sent into FUMPS. They claim that they're screened, and they claim that they have families ready for them. When I first heard it, I'm like, you can't handle what you got now. But you think that that's going to be okay as well. I hope to God that everybody they're sending up, there are kids that are going to fall in with foster families and maybe they have relatives here. I hope that that's the case. But I don't think that FUMPS has demonstrated that they can handle what they have now. The moratorium's great, but the moratorium's a little bit late.
Sheriff, they're saying they know that they can't handle these kids, but they don't have to take them or.
They have to. Under state law, they have to. The law is that you cannot turn a child away. And DJJ, they can turn them away. But DJJ tells all these other low-level providers, you can't turn them away. Did I screw that one up, or did I say it pretty damn, was that pretty clear? Thank you. Carla's my sounding board for DJJ issues. I mean, that's why we did what we did when I got elected. We did in Daytona. We brought a juvenile justice coordinator in to try to plug the gaps. You know, one of the things that I saw in Daytona Beach was a lot of these kids we were coming in contact with can't read. So we tried to invest heavily in literacy, in mentoring programs, in summer camps, in life skills camp, partnering with these other agencies. And then sometimes you just bang your head against the wall saying, I can't believe we lock these kids up and they get put right out again. And folks, you know, for the poor people in Deltona, we get 8 car breaks in the neighborhood. First thing we go is, who got dumped in the FUMPS? Oh, look who it is. And then they get a fingerprint or you get video. It's the kids that just got dumped in the FUMPS. You get a robbery in the area, you know right away where to go to look.
I just want to repeat Claire's question. How are the deputies doing, Sheriff?
I haven't talked to them today. That's my last thing to do is to call them tonight. Some of them last night, they looked good. They were smiling. There were other ones that they had the blank 50-yard stare on. Like, what just happened? What just happened? And when I met with them, I tried to tell them, you know, look, we can't, they're not allowed to talk to me and tell me what happened, but I wanted them all to know that, you know, this job stinks sometimes. This job stinks. And last night, it stunk. But you have a duty and a responsibility to go home to your family. You have a duty and responsibility to follow your training, follow your supervisors, and come up with the best solutions you can when an absolute shitstorm is swirling around you. And they did that. And they went beyond that. And when you see some of the video clips you want to let go, and when you listen to the calls of what they're trying to do, I don't know where we get such men and women to do this job. And I hope I never find out. And I hope that long line doesn't stop, because you know, we get beat up for everything. Who try to do the best every single day that they can, knowing that something like this can happen, and that there's a good possibility that they might not go home.
Just another question, Sheriff. You said deputies fired like 60 shots. We know.
And then we'll slowly start to bring them back into the fold.
Sheriff, you mentioned the award from Moore County Sheriff's Office, Slave in the Den. Prior to entering that home, these teenagers did not know about that.
Did not know. They did not know at all. They didn't know anything. They do know that they were on the property, according to the 12-year-old statement, because they do see the homeowner and his daughters leave. He says that to the detectives. We saw the homeowner leave, and he did. They left to go to Publix. And unfortunately, he had his 2 daughters with him, and one of the daughters wanted to stay home. And he said, no, you're coming. We're going to run the place and we're right back.
Can you talk about, I'd imagine some of these deputies are dad, what kind of toll it takes on them to having to respond to a situation like this, especially
I've been doing this 34 years, and thank God I never had to ever had anything like this in my career. I can tell you that when we had those 2 teenagers killed on I-4 around Christmas time, that some of my biggest, strongest, bravest, hardest working, compassionate deputies cried like little kids. To walk up to that SUV and have to cut those kids out and cut one of them out, or 2 of them were dead, and when one was alive. And to look at their faces, and then afterwards when we went to meet with the family, to watch these big, strong officers just melt down, it makes you realize how human you really are. And last night when I went out to see them, the 8 of them were in a room together having pizza and some water before they had to take a pee test. And when I looked at each one in the eye, you could see some of them were, okay, this is my job. There were others that it was, you could just look in their face and know they're going to have a problem. They're going to have a problem moving forward.
Just to follow up on that question, Sheriff, when a situation like this happens, what type of counseling is available for the deputies?
They get immediately counseled that night. That night we have what's called the critical stress debriefing team. And they go in, and it's made up of active law enforcement, it's made up of retired, it's made up of vets, it's whatever the person who's involved in that critical incident deems that they would like to talk to. That's the first step. Then obviously they have to go, we mandate them after a while to go down to see a psychologist to talk, and then we get an evaluation from there, and then we depend on their peers is a big input for us. You know, how is that deputy responding? You know, I worked with a guy who was in a bad shooting. When I mean bad shooting, he had to shoot and kill somebody he didn't want to kill. And it took us 9 months to realize he would come to work with his gun unloaded. I mean, we didn't realize it. He was acting kind of strange, and then something happened, and they realized his gun was unloaded because he didn't want to kill anybody. He still wanted to be a cop, but he thought it was better off for him to die than it would be to kill somebody again. So every human being reacts differently. You know, for me, I've been in 2 shootings. Thank God I'm a bad shot. I didn't kill anybody. But there are other people that just because you're wearing a badge and a gun and you get a shootout doesn't mean that I go home and like I'm so proud of myself I killed somebody. I mean, I have yet to meet a deputy or a police officer like that ever.
Is there a time frame of treatment after that initial debriefing?
There's a window that we look at to schedule everybody to go see our psychologist. We have a psychologist. He's in Maitland, and everybody gets a turn to go down and see him. And it's a pretty long session. But we have 8 to go through that, so it's going to take a while to get everybody through that. And then again, you can follow up as much as you want. We go based on what the first 2 initial debriefings are. And unfortunately, you know, these are things that don't settle in right away. It could be years later, just like we know from vets. You know, they come home, they're hopefully functional human beings, and several years later, the train goes off the tracks because everything caught up to them. You know, and for us, the big thing is to let the adrenaline, let everything calm down. You know, because they're worried, and everybody's worried that I do everything right. What's the media going to say about me? What are people going to think? I shot a 14-year-old? What's going to happen to me? What's going to happen to my family? So that's why I think it's important to get this information out there and discuss some of the other issues that are going on. I could not be, and I mean this, I can't be any more proud of the deputies and the supervision. You know, when you talk about de-escalation, when you talk about some of the bad things that you see happen around the country, it's a failure to train. It's a failure to have proper supervision. We had proper supervision out there last night, directing everything, making the best decisions possible on the fly. They were trained in those tactics of time, distance, and cover. They were trained under those things.
Going back to the facilities, how often would you say you guys are responding to runaways? Is it a couple times a week, a couple times a month?
Oh, it depends. There are times we're out there over the weekend. We could be out there 10 times.
And do you know how this facility differs from like an adult facility? Are there all types of kids there, or are they all some kind of...
Well, the adult facility on the corner, when you leave here today, is secure. The only way you're getting out is to get over the fence and escape. Although we have incidents in there where they attack one another or beat the crap out of staff. This facility is not, it's open. You can go to school, which these 2 kids are Volusia County students, and then at night, when school's out, you go back there, and that's where you have your meals, and you sleep, and you do whatever. So you can walk off that campus anytime, and they do.
And there's all types of kids there.
There are the court-mandated kids that DJJ sends there, and then there are kids that may be court-mandated or DCF, because the Department of Children and Family has to move them somewhere. They'll put them into a place like Funch.
I don't know if this is a question for FDLE, but had these kids been to this house before?
We have no indication. We interviewed, Chief Henderson was with me last night when we did it. So was Lieutenant McDaniel. We interviewed the homeowner.
Yeah, because we're curious how they were able to find, because the homeowner told us that the guns and the ammo were in separate locations. You know if that was the case?
All I can tell you is they ransacked the house. The house is, I mean, it's ransacked. It's not like where they were in a hurry to get out of there. They were in there for the long haul. That entire house was ransacked and destroyed. There was not a drawer left open. Everything was moved. Beds, clothing were thrown. I mean, they ransacked the man's home.
Do you know if the guns were secured?
I don't believe they were. I think they were loaded. Well, although, you know, Patricio's is saying that the homeowner said that the AR or the AK was disassembled. I don't know. We didn't interview him, other than he came in and, you know, had pizza with us and, you know, told us how grateful he was for the quick response by us, and, you know, but FDLE will interview him more in depth. But he's a citizen inside of his own home. You know, he doesn't have little kids running around, so why wouldn't you have your loaded pistol somewhere where you can get your hands on it?
I was just remembering a question that came up here in a news meeting this morning. They were questioning the fact that AK-47s are illegal, Sheriff. Is that the case?
You can go and buy an AK-47 or an AR-15 if they have them in stock. You can go buy one. It's not illegal to buy them. We have target shooters, but that's what they shoot. AR-15s, you can go buy them.
Prior to last night, did sheriff's deputies have any contact at all with a 14-year-old?
Deltona deputies did, because they had arrested her in 2018 for the larceny of the puppies, which was her first foray.
My last question.
Yes.
Update on the girl?
The last update was she was in critical but stable condition Arnold Palmer. They took her to CFR. They stabilized her and they airlifted her down to Arnold Palmer. And of course, none of us want to see anything bad happen. None of us. You know, the deputies didn't return fire. The minute they could secure that scene, they're screaming for. You'll see this in here, screaming for a medical kit, screaming for a tourniquet, talking about how we're going to get her out of here. How can we get her out to rescue?
What does that mean, Sheriff? That she's not going to die, critical but stable?
I don't know, Patricio. I know that none of us want to see her die.
Okay.
I think it would be. I'm not a medical person, but I mean, to say she's out of the woods, she wouldn't be out of the woods. Especially being shot in vital areas, chest, abdomen. Guys, want to see the video? All right. Can we, Carla, can we kill the front lights? Andrew, I think this is your cue.
All right. I got you.
Sound? Or are you gonna? Oh, that's right, body camera. Sorry. Is Sergeant Alpha 40?
Yes.
Okay. So when I talked about Alpha 40 taking gunfire and somebody else saying they're shooting,